I agree. Yeah, that's what's been happening recently. Anyway, I will talk to you later.
I'll catch you on stream.
All right. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League deadline stream. Today is deadline stream for game week 1. Let me pull up my current team and stop going through all these tabs. The team has changed a lot since a lot of you may have last seen it. I'm actually pretty confident in a lot of these picks. I'm actually going to finish uploading a video right now. We got a while to go for the deadline, so I'm just chilling for now, but I will be releasing this team selection video. It exported a little late on me, so I apologize, but hey, we're going to upload this video regardless. I got to get it out in time. So it's got to happen. Now if I can just figure out where it's at, that would be pretty helpful. So we got game week 1 final team, and now that's uploading while I'm surely that won't impact the quality of anything, and I'm going to keep going. Let me know if there's any issues with the stream, with the audio, or with the video quality, anything like that. That would be great to know. And welcome back, everybody. This is a big day. For other reasons outside of this, I only got 2 hours of sleep, so I am not in a mood to be making a lot of decisions, so hopefully I don't, but we'll see what happens. We know that it doesn't always go well. It's also very hot in here right now. I'm on the 3rd floor with no air conditioning, and heat rises, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me today. Let me post a little post on Twitter that I am live, and we will get going. I will start off talking about, I wanted to mention Blue's team because he DM'd me and said, hey, go over my team on Twitter on the stream today, so that is something I will do. So if you're on Twitter or if you follow me there, feel free to send me your team and I can share my thoughts. I mean, I feel like a lot of our teams are going to be relatively similar, so I may end up repeating myself, but that's acceptable. That is acceptable sometimes. I want to make sure everybody gets their feedback in if they really want it. And live now. So thank you guys for joining. This video is still uploading 3 minutes. All right, so my players, potential changes. Main one, I would say, is Parika. There's also Veltman. Actually, didn't I change Veltman? I thought I brought in Webster. Let me refresh the page. The thing about Veltman and Webster is a Brighton fan said Webster is a little more nailed on, and apparently he's had a little more goal threat in preseason. Is it going to make a big difference? No, but I'd like to be able to know that I can hold on to a Brighton defender long term if I really want to, and Webster is nailed on at center back, whereas Veltman certainly can play center back and may end up playing there even if they switch formations. But when Lamptey gets back, Lamptey will be preferred in a right wing back role. That's not where Veltman's currently playing. Veltman's been playing in a right center back and a back 3, but you could see where the potential for some rotation could come in there if they switch to a 4 at the back, and then Lamptey gets back at like September 11th, and then all of a sudden Veltman could lose his place. So that slight risk, given the fact that having Veltman over Webster was no real upside anyway, because Veltman isn't expected to be playing right wing back, so their attacking threat is similar. I think Webster over Veltman is a little bit safer at the moment. If Veltman does end up playing right wing back, that would be a mistake because Veltman will have way more attacking threat from that position. With that said, we don't have any reason to believe that's going to be the case. So Webster in for now. Got Reguilon in. I'm excited about the Reguilon pick. I think he's very under the radar. He really is. So 2,200 minutes last season, 6 assists. That's pretty good. More assists than Luke Shaw, as I mentioned in my video. That will be uploaded soon. Fixtures 2 through 4 are good. I like the Wolves fixture. I'm viewing the Wolves fixture as a pretty easy fixture for Tottenham. The main reason is because Wolves don't have Nuno anymore. I'm not sure how they'll respond to that. I'm not convinced by a lot of the players they've been playing in preseason, to be honest with you. They have quality. We all know that, and it is on the road at Wolves, but I don't know. I just don't trust Wolves. So game weeks 2 through 4, that also goes for Son. I think Son's a captaincy option. And I love him game week 3 against Watford. I think that's going to be my captain. I think I'm going to go Salah the first 2. If I bring in Bruno for Mane game week 2, I'd probably captain Bruno game week 2 because Bruno plays Southampton in comparison to Liverpool play Burnley. That would be a tough decision. But right now my plan is Salah, and then Son, and then probably back to Salah. But Bruno could come in the mix there and be the captain game week 2. And maybe game week 4. Who do Man United play game week 4? Because it's always important to get some captaincy options down. Make sure you're not completely stranded 1 week with no captaincy option. Yeah, so game week 4, Man United play Newcastle. Bruno definitely a captaincy option there as well. Bruno very good at just absolutely destroying the small teams. Very good at that. Not even close. So, am I going to miss out not having Bruno? At some point, yes, but hopefully by then I'll get him in. The 2 times Bruno played Leeds, I wasn't too impressed with his performances, to be honest. Like, as far as him getting in good goal-scoring positions, I would much more rather have Mane versus Norwich. I think there's some real high upside potential there. So that's why I currently have Mane instead of Bruno. There are a lot of players that my team is currently missing out on. A lot of players that narrowly missed team selection for me. Game 1, final team selection. FPL. Let me go ahead and make sure this video is ready to upload, and so it can do so when it's ready. Visibility, ad suitability. Oh, you know it's suitable for ads, but it's not going to have time to process. I don't need the ads for this one. I'm just trying to get the team out in time before the deadline. For all the people that can't join the stream but want to watch the video, it takes like 20 minutes to get the ads, and then the ads give you 20 cents. So it's not worth it anyway. Let's go to public. Actually, you know what? Let's just schedule it for... no, let's just go public, actually. Save or publish, and we are public. I need a thumbnail, though. I'm just going to not even make a thumbnail. Just trying to get... Thanks, you guys, for sticking with me through this as I get this video uploaded. And visibility, save or publish, and boom, there's the video uploaded. So there we go. For all the people that can't join the stream, 10-minute video about why I selected my team. Feel free to go and check that out, especially if you're joining this a little bit late, or if you are curious, because I go through each player in detail there, and maybe I forget to answer a question that you may have asked. So that video is now uploaded. With that said, let's get into some questions. So Muhammad asks, aren't you scared that Bruno is more than 50% owned? Okay, I like that you use the word scared. Obviously, I will start off. I mean, this should be obvious. It's not good to make decisions based on ownership, in my opinion, especially this early in the season. So I'm all about who I think is going to get more points for my team, given my strategy. Now, given that I'm completely down with getting Bruno in game week 2 if I have to, I am not that scared, because I think Mane is a better pick than Bruno for game week 1, especially. Like I said, Bruno against Leeds isn't really my favorite matchup, and Mane versus Norwich I think is very good. Bruno's certainly a great option, and it's a close call, but I mean, Mane's numbers are simply better. I also think they're going to really crack down and not call so many penalties this season to start off with. They'll probably overcorrect in that direction. So it's a little more important to look at non-penalty numbers, like non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes, and non-penalty expected assists per 90 minutes. And Mane, especially with the non-penalty goals per 90 minutes, Mane simply wins. And shots in the box, Mane had more than Kane last season per game. So a lot of Mane's numbers from open play are just awesome. So that's why against Norwich, I really want Mane. I think he's got great upside, and I think he's a better option game week 1. If we just take it in a vacuum and say, hey, if it goes wrong, I can get Bruno game week 2. Game week 1, I think Mane's better than Bruno. And the thing is, if Mane gains some confidence, I think he's dangerous against Burnley, so that makes it a keep as well. Then game week 3, okay, let's say Mane scores 1 goal in each of the first 2 games, and let's say Bruno gets a goal then an assist. Do I keep Mane for game week 3 against Chelsea? I could also bring in Bruno for game week 3 when they play Wolves. I think I go ahead and make that transfer to Bruno, but the issue is there that Mane has some decent fixtures after that are probably a little bit better than Manchester United's here. So Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford. And then we also have, for United, we have Newcastle, West Ham, Villa. But then it gets really bad. And what is after that for Liverpool? I mean, it's not super easy, but still some decent ones in there. But for either team, any fixture could be decent. Fixtures aren't that important for big teams unless we're talking about playing the really small teams, I suppose. But no, as far as ownership goes, I try not to let that impact my decisions. Once the deadline hits and I can sit back and truly acknowledge what just happened, yeah, I have a less than 5% owned Mane over 50% owned Bruno. That's a big deal. It's people will label that as risky. It's not. I don't think it's risky because I'm making what I think is the best decision, but it is risky with regards to the fact that it has a high probability of giving me an extreme result. So an extreme result meaning I either get a very good rank out of that or a very bad rank out of that. Another thing that's worth noting is that they could also just perform similarly because they're both great players. But if one does well and one does bad, it's either going to be really good or really bad for me because of the ownerships. But I'm not going to let that impact my decision. So that was probably really long-winded, but that's my whole position on the whole Mane versus Bruno thing. I think Bruno is certainly a great option. Ollie asked what my thoughts on Everton are. So Everton have great fixtures, and I really wanted to find one of their players to bring in. So right away we look at Digne. I think Digne is arguably the best value option, right? None of their midfielders are interesting. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Pickford's not good enough. And that actually becomes an issue with Digne. I don't trust Pickford in goal. This is going to sound very simple, but Pickford's bad. For Everton, Pickford's just not great. It's not England Pickford. I don't trust a defender that I think is going to concede at 5.5 million. I think he's got great attacking threat, but the real issue comes with Luke Shaw and Soufal. I think Luke Shaw and Soufal are just as good options as Digne. Shaw, much more reliable defender, or defense, I should say. Soufal, a little bit cheaper, 9 assists last season. I really think these guys are better options than Digne, especially given the price points. If Shaw was 6, I'd probably still have him over Digne. If Soufal was 5.5, I don't know. That would be a tough one between Soufal and Digne, but because he's 5, I think it's an easy decision to have Soufal in. So Digne misses out. Calvert-Lewin misses out because of how great value Ings is and Antonio. The only way Calvert-Lewin could maybe fit into this team is, let's say I dropped Gundogan, and then I would have to find 0.5 more, change the formation to a 3-4-3, and then I could get in Calvert-Lewin. But that 0.5 more makes a big difference in this team. I don't really know where I would get that from. And I just don't trust Everton's midfield enough to create chances for Calvert-Lewin. I will say that as long as they have midfielders healthy like Doucouré and Allen, I think they do have a decent chance of being defensively sound. And we saw that last season. When these players were healthy, they defended pretty well. But I still just don't trust Pickford enough. And when you're dealing with the value of a player like Shaw, I think it's kind of an easy choice, actually. But if I was to choose another 5.5 defender, it would be a tough one. I mean, Wan-Bissaka would certainly be in the conversation still. Digne made a little appearance on my team, but I had to get rid of him pretty quickly. So that's my general thoughts on Everton, I would say. Let's go to Blues' FPL team. He DM'd me saying for me to look it over. So let's see what we got going on here. So this is Blues FPL's team. He's got Sanchez, Shaw, Trent. Well, you can see the whole team. The first players that stand out, because we have a lot of similar players, right? So there's no point in me rehashing why I love all the players I have. Benrahma and Tony, I would say, are the first ones where I'm not entirely sure. So Benrahma, I don't trust his finishing ability yet. I think he's a good player, but he reminds me of... I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't really think of one. Almost like Balassi, where that's probably a bad example, but he looks really good, and you could tell he can be really good, but because he just can't quite finish, he almost just ends up hitting the ball on target and kind of hoping. He sort of lacks that composure in front of goal. That's my eye test analysis of the guy. He's only 6 million, and he plays Newcastle game week 1, so he's certainly not a bad option. But I just don't trust him that much. So I've went down from that 6 million price point. I would have got Harrison at that 6 million, but the fixtures aren't amazing to start with. 2 bad ones in the first 4. I went down to the 5.5 and got Smith Rowe because I can rotate him in, get good fixtures game week 1 and game week 4 with him. I think for 0.5 less, Smith Rowe is a little better than Benrahma in my opinion, but if you're looking for an every week starter, you probably do need to go for a 6 million player. But see, like my thing is, right, you go down the Smith Rowe, you get 0.5 more, you could go Ailing or Veltman to Reguilon, and all of a sudden that gives you an every week starter, at least from game week 2 to 4, which in my opinion is a long time. But Benrahma, not a huge fan. We'll just have to see. We really have to see. But I think he's got the fixtures where we can give him 2 game weeks, Newcastle away, and then we can watch him against Leicester. That's not a very easy matchup. And if he does well, he looks good, I'll consider bringing him in game week 3. I believe they have a pretty good fixture that week, right? Who do West Ham play game week 3? I mean, Benrahma did make some appearances in some of my drafts. Oh, yeah, so they play Crystal Palace and Southampton, so could be a good time to bring in Benrahma. Greenwood, if he starts, great option. 7.5 for the first couple of weeks. But I honestly, as far as nailed onness goes, don't think he's nailed on. Think he should start game week 1, but I think Sancho's going to start. The issue is they could easily go at striker. They could go Martial, right wing, Sancho, left wing, Pogba, center attacking mid, Bruno. No place for Greenwood, and of course once Cavani is there, Cavani can play striker. And then you also got Daniel James in the mix as well. And maybe like Juan Mata. So honestly, I would avoid Greenwood. I think Gundogan's much better at the price point. Harvey Barnes interests me as well. Jota interests me as well. You already have 3 Liverpool players, but for other people out there, Jota, I mean, I don't have him, but certainly hat-trick upside game week 1. He basically performs like a big hitter when he plays, which is a good way to word it, which is what Davey FPL said just like 5 minutes ago. And that's true. But Jota is also a rotation risk. So if you like the high upside rotation risks, I personally would go with Jota instead of Greenwood. Obviously, he's got Bruno in here. Trent, Tsimikas, Salah. So Tsimikas and Salah for me are basically must-haves. Tsimikas is the best value player in the game for the first 2 game weeks. 4 million, some attacking threat. Starts for Liverpool against Norwich and Burnley. It doesn't get much better than that. The stuff you can do with that money elsewhere is crucial for the first 2 game weeks. Trent, obviously, you can't go too wrong with him. But he has a lot of money considering, like I said, I'm a fan of Soufal and a lot of these other cheaper guys. So, especially just Soufal now that I think about it. Maybe Matty Cash as well. Great first 3 fixtures. So, if you can find a way to get a cheaper defender that you think is going to keep up with Trent for the first 3 or 4, that could be kind of valuable. And then maybe from there, who knows, maybe we just leave Trent out. Or scramble to get 3.5 million and go straight from Tsimikas to Trent, because at that point Tsimikas will have lost his spot to Robertson once he's back. So those are some of my thoughts on the team. Tony, if it was better fixtures to start with, I would feel differently, but I'm just going to wait and see on him. I think there's good value at the striker spot, a little bit more expensive, so just not quite for me, but certainly a fine option. And Mahrez, well, me and Blues actually talked about this the other day. He'll get you points at some point. If you have him for the whole season, he may come off the bench for 15 minutes and get a hat trick, and then he may blank twice in a row, playing 90 and then 68 minutes. When's he going to get you points? Nobody knows, but his goal and assist per 90-minute ratio is good. But that's the most I can say for him because he is pretty hard to predict. And I love Gundogan for Man City, so I think he's a little cheaper there. That's what I've done with my own team. Of course, that's what everybody does when they do a rate my team. They talk about, here's how you make your team more like my team. So that's what I just did. Very helpful. But no, that's a very solid team. If I had to change one player, I think this is a good way to critique teams. If I had to change one player or one thing about the team, if I had to change one player, one thing, I think I would just, what would I do? One player, one thing. Let me go back to his team. I'm gonna say. I mean, honestly, for me, it'd be Mahrez to Gundogan and upgrading Tony. So Mahrez to Gundogan gives you 1.5. Tony costs 6.5. Mahrez to Gundogan. Tony to Ings. Boom. Now you get a Villa attacker with amazing fixtures. So that would be my combination change there, I suppose. I think that's reasonable enough, right? Hey, Nuclear Adams, how's it going? Which Chelsea mid for game week 1? Brandon O'Leary asked 17 minutes ago. Probably Havertz. I don't trust Pulisic enough to start, or else I would maybe say him. I don't trust Ziyech enough to score goals, to be honest. Havertz has been good preseason. With Lukaku there, it makes things a little weird, but I think Havertz is pretty reliable game week 1. I mean, I don't love their fixtures after that. I'm not too interested in them, but I'd go Havertz. He's got that potential to play in the number 9 role. Havertz, for me, looks pretty good when he has good fixtures. Luckily, I think that would be a tough decision now that Lukaku's came, because we don't know where Havertz is going to play at. But luckily, because he has bad fixtures, I haven't had to consider it too much. Yes, good luck, Pravas. We certainly shall win. Lacazette and Aubameyang out for the game tonight. Yeah, it's so funny, right? Arsenal already starting off very hot. I don't know how that makes me feel about Smith Rowe. I mean, I'm like, somebody has to shoot more now that they're not there. So, and it's still Brentford, Smith Rowe. I mean, less attackers in the team, right? He's more guaranteed to start as if he wasn't. It doesn't really impact him that much. Who will they play instead? Somebody tell me in chat who Arsenal are going to play instead. I can't say I remember both of them missing. Is it going to be, it could be Saka, Williams, Smith Rowe, and Pepe as a front four, but I don't know who would play striker in that. Those are probably their best attackers if you consider William a good attacker, I suppose. They also have the young guy that played in some of the friendlies. Forget his name. That's if I'm thinking about the right team. Is it this guy, Sambi? Maybe that's who I'm thinking about. I'm not sure. Martinelli could be. Martinelli, if I thought he was going to start for sure, could be a decent option to throw in. But I already have Smith Rowe. I'm not going to take an unnecessary risk there. And Nketiah's out as well. Jeez, guys. Arsenal, what is going on, man? Wow. I have an Arsenal attacker, and this is what's going to happen, isn't it? Yeah, I would imagine Saka left wing, Pepe right wing, maybe striker Pepe, Smith Rowe Cam. I'd throw Pepe at striker and throw Willian at right wing, I think, or just completely change the formation. But I'd give Willian a chance at right wing and throw Pepe at striker. I feel like he's played there before in France. I don't remember though. Maybe a decent shout, one of these players is going to come in. But it's Arsenal. Do you really want to get them? Not really. Not really. Hey, Blues, how's it going? I mentioned your team in case you missed it. I don't think you did. How are you, Harveen? How's it going, man? Good luck on that front page this time around. Good luck getting on the top 10 and beyond in the Beat Block League. I believe the link is in the description below. If not, I posted it on Twitter recently if you'd like to join my mini league. You've been thinking about Mahrez, Grealish. Thoughts on that? I think I would go Mahrez because I think he's going to start the first couple of ones. Like I said, I'm a fan of Gundogan, but Mahrez certainly has big game potential. And there's no doubt about that. Over a longer period of time, Mahrez probably outscores Gundogan, but I think Gundogan's a little better value, but I would go Mahrez over Grealish, I think. We just don't know what's going to happen with Grealish at City yet. A lot of times, new players into Man City need some time to get used to Pep's tactics before he feels comfortable throwing them in. So, for that reason, I'd say Mahrez. Why Gundogan? This is probably a question I'll get a little bit today. It's mentioned in my video that I just uploaded. But basically, in the 2 friendlies he started, he scored twice, and then he took 4 shots in the next one. He's been playing an attacking role. His 2 biggest downsides, I would say, like as far as overall in general, are potential rotation and him playing in a defensive mid role or something similar to a defensive mid role. I think both of those are not going to happen because, one, KDB's out. So right away, that moves him into attacking position, and that's less rotation. But then you also have other people injured as well, like Foden, and Sterling might not be back yet. I don't remember the update on that. But with Foden and KDB out, Gundogan's going to be playing an attacking role just like he did in preseason. So you're getting 7.5 for, I mean, it's like a in between a number 8 and a number 10 role. But basically what happens is when they get the ball comfortably in the attacking third, Gundogan's getting forward into that box for crosses or like just drifting forward near like a striker role because they don't play with a true striker. So he sort of is allowed to make runs into them sorts of areas. He's good at that, and Pep knows that. So that's sort of why I have Gundogan. 7.5, I think it's a great price for someone in that role in the best attack in the league. So not the best fixtures, though. That's the one downside that remains with him. The other two are eliminated by injuries, but fixtures from Game Week 1 aren't great. Game Week 2, the fixture is awesome, and he's actually a potential captaincy option as well as all the other Man City players. But Game Week 1 and other game weeks, Gundogan's a tough one, but I really do think he's a great value pick. I'm a big fan of Gundogan to start. Like I said, 2 goals, then 4 shots. What more could you ask for someone that's only 7.5? If one of those shots, if the free kick or the shot he had running in the box flies into the back of the net, people would be all over Gundogan right now because he would have scored in all of his friendlies. He's only 7.5, Man City. But because Man City lost and he didn't score, I feel like people are just sort of ignoring him. So, yeah, who knows how Tottenham will play, though. Tottenham could easily give them a good fight, and at that point, well, he's not likely to do too much. Good luck, Alden. Am I convinced that Spurs will keep clean sheet after City? No, I'm not convinced. But they have a decent chance, and Reguilon should have more attacking threat than last season if Nuno plays it like he did with Wolves. But they are great fixtures, especially the Watford and Crystal Palace ones, and Wolves. I'm not convinced Wolves can attack very well at all. So if we look at Reguilon's fixtures here, obviously I'm mentioning him against Man City. But then we have Wolves, a team with not the most creative midfield or attacking mindset, and then Watford and Crystal Palace, 2 of the worst teams in the league. So Reguilon, in my opinion, great chance of a double-digit haul at one of these games. What do you think of Barnes or Salah and Mane? I'm a little confused by the question there, R-Bar. You may have to repeat that. Barnes or Salah and Mane. I'm a little confused. And Davey or Capital FPL, I probably get a lot of questions about Bruno. Why I don't have Bruno. It's going to be a lot. But I think Mane over Bruno early on could really pay off. No Stones or Trent. Stones, Man City's fixtures, but really it's just the fact that I think the defenders I have are better value. So Tsimikas, arguably the best value for the first 2 game weeks out of anybody. Luke Shaw, amazing value, better value than Stones, more attacking threat. A little bit worse defense, but way less rotation risky. And Soufal, only 5 million, great attacking threat, good defense. I'm the big fan of these 3 guys. And then I also have Reguilon off the bench. So I think it rotates pretty well. Trent would have been in the team if Tsimikas wouldn't have broke out when Robertson got hurt. I had Robertson, and then once Robertson got hurt, Tsimikas sort of replaced him. So I got a lot of money in that exchange, just $3 million. But before I realized Tsimikas was going to be a reliable option, I actually threw Trent in the team. Obviously, the team looked different then. I did not have Mane, Salah, and Son all on the same team with Trent, but that's the reason why I have Tsimikas in there. I can just spend more money elsewhere. And I think that $3.5 million makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. That's a difference of, a 6.5 mid and Son. I think that's a bigger. I think I'd rather have Son over 6.5 rather than Trent over Tsimikas, for example. Because Tsimikas should be able to keep up with Trent. But there's no way a 6.5 keeps up with Son over the first 4, I would say. Son's got great fixtures, 2 through 4. So, Harveen says, I think need to keep money in the bank for Lukaku. He guaranteed goals at Chelsea. I agree. I think, for me, I'm not sure how it's going to happen yet, but I got a lot of premium, so I have money to choose from easily. Like, I could just make one transfer and get a lot of money in the bank if I get rid of Mane, Salah, or Son. But I think I can wait a while. So let's take a look at Chelsea's fixtures. Let's go back to the transfers page. Lukaku, you're going to want him in your team at some point. Everybody's going to have him at some point. He's going to have a good run. We all know it. I think we can go without him for the first 3. Arsenal may not be that bad of a fixture, though. So Crystal Palace, Arsenal, but then with Liverpool, so we can avoid Liverpool. Tottenham may be a fine matchup as well. Man City is going to be difficult. But if you don't start off with him, I mean, because he's not going to play game week 1. So you don't really want to start off with him against Arsenal and Liverpool. I mean, especially having 11.5 on the bench game week 1. So I think game week 4 is going to be a good time as long as he looks good when he does play in the bigger games. And then if he's still not looking great, we have till game week 7. At that point, even if he's not looking amazing, you may just want to get him anyway because they play Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley. So that's going to be, if people are wildcarding around that time, you're going to see Chelsea triple ups, and they're going to be effective. Yeah, so I would start thinking about it, but just be aware that you could maybe just wait until your wildcard time if you're planning on wildcarding around game week 7 to get Lukaku because of the fixtures. So we'll see what happens. Digne and Dyer or Keane and Reguilon, I'm going to have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Keane, to be honest, but I'm going to say Keane and Reguilon. Mount or Barnes? I'm going to say Barnes. A little bit better fixtures. I heard that he's a risk to not start game week 1, though. I don't want to throw out random rumors, but that's what I heard from somewhere. Other than that, I prefer Barnes over Mount because of the fixtures. Who will partner Romero in Spurs defense? Not sure. Not sure, to be honest with you, Omar. Ings or Antonio? If I had to choose one, that's a good question. I would go Ings because the fixtures are just a little bit better. And when I say a little bit, I mean that's probably as good as they can get. So Watford, Newcastle, Brentford, zero chance I go without Ings, to be honest with you. Antonio, like these guys, for context, right? They were 4th and 3rd as far as my opinion of the top 5 best value players to start the season with for game weeks 1 through 5. So this is a very close decision. You can't go wrong with either one, in my opinion. But I would go Ings. The fixtures are just a little bit better, and I think that makes a difference. I still have $10.5 million for a midfielder, and I'm thinking of taking a punt on Pepe, and game week 2 I'll transfer him to either Son or Mahrez. Okay, if you want to take a punt, that sounds decent. We don't know what Arsenal are going to do because Aubameyang and Lacazette are not available today. Does that make Pepe a better option because Pepe may be starting at a striker role? I don't know. I think that's a possibility, but I'm not an Arsenal fan. An Arsenal fan definitely needs to make their prediction of what they think is going to happen with this lineup. But if you're down for that sort of punty action, Pepe is the one to go for. I mean, it's against Brentford, and then you have Son or Mahrez. I mean, there's always Gundogan over there as well, but 10.5. If you don't have Son's the obvious pick just because of the price point. Plus 0.5 million. Great fixtures game weeks 2 through 4. I know game week 1 looks tough for Son, but hey, it's not the end of the world. Son can counterattack Man City. Omar says he follows a lot of Arab players and is backing Benrahma to start strong. Also check Moy's comments today. All right. What are you hoping for? So what am I hoping for with Smith Rowe, Son, and Gundogan? I'll give you, okay, so Smith Rowe, I'd be happy with one return. One of the first 2 weeks I play him. After that, I'm not sure. So I'm gonna play in Brentford and then Norwich. I think he should get one return in those games, at least one combined. At only 5.5, I would take a return in 50% of the games I play him. I think that'd be awesome, and I think that's certainly possible given how easy those fixtures are. Son, game weeks 2 through 4, he better be putting up the big numbers because I'm paying $10 million for him. I think he will. I trust Son. Gundogan, I think he provides great value at 7.5. This Norwich game, I'm hoping it's going to be big. But other than that, I think he can perform in any one of these games. I'm going to keep him longer term. I don't plan on selling him because it's Man City. They can perform in any game. and I think he'll tick along the points nicely. That's what I expect from these players. Balogun may play because he had preseason. That is true. And Nketiah is injured, and Martinelli always gets played as a winger. Good point. Let's see. There we go. That was interesting. That was very interesting. This is the first time this has happened. I'm gonna need some moderators. Let me know if you want to be a moderator. Obviously, you got to be somebody that I see a lot here. But all right, that was interesting there, buddy. Thanks for that in chat. That probably helped my interactions a little bit and maybe boosted me up the algorithm a little bit. So can't complain too much, I suppose. Tsimikas and Son or Trent and Barnes have Mane and Salah as well. This is a good question. Tsimikas and Son or Trent and Barnes? Well, my team answers the question for you because I have Tsimikas and Son. So I'll explain why. I really just think Tsimikas is the best value player to start. You're getting 4 million. Okay, think about this. If Tsimikas was 5 million, I think I would still have him in my team because he's only 5 million for a Liverpool defender. 2 good fixtures, some attacking threat as well. I still think I would take the chance on him. But now he's 4 million. That means not only getting an extra million that you can spend elsewhere, but he easily transitions into a bench player once you're done with him. The one potential issue with that is he will be taking up a Liverpool spot, but that's a small price to pay considering how much money you're really gaining for this guy. So I'm a fan of Tsimikas and Son. Anytime you can find a way to fit in the premiums while not really sacrificing that much, you still get a Liverpool defender out of that, go for the premium route is, I would say, a general rule of thumb. It's kind of a overgeneralization maybe. It's going to come back to bite me one day. But I think it's pretty fair because having that premium you can rely on gives you captaincy options. It gives you someone to play every week no matter what. You don't have to worry about fixture rotations. Whereas if you had Barnes against someone like Man City, it would be like, oh, I don't know. So having the premiums is just a nice luxury to have. Why have you chosen Webster over White? So I'm not so sure about the Webster-White debate. I initially had Veltman, and I wanted to get someone that I felt was a little more nailed on. I mentioned that at the very beginning of the stream. Basically, Webster is less likely to lose his place further down the line than Veltman is. Not that I think Veltman will, but there's certainly the possibility if they change to a more consistent 4 at the back and then Lamptey comes back, Veltman could easily lose a spot in that case. Harveen said he's just joined my league. Good to hear, my friend. Fight for the top 6. Harveen, luckily, my friend, you can't get relegated. You will always provide some value to our league. You go out there, you compete. People pay to, they fill up the stands to come watch you play. So that's what it's all about at the end of the day, And that's how you give an interview like a sports player. Balgoon starting for Arsenal, 5.0 attacker. It's going to be interesting. Son and Calvert-Lewin are Harvey Barnes and Vardy, plus 1 million in the bank. I'm going to say Son and Calvert-Lewin. And I love Vardy and Barnes. I think they've got some good fixtures that people are kind of overlooking. I love Barnes, I should say. Vardy is good. Obviously, I have a Vardy jersey. Only EPL jersey I have is Vardy. I love him. But 10.5 is too much, okay? Not that I don't think he can score, but Bamford at 8, for example, is so much better value. Ings, Antonio, and Bamford are all so much better value than Vardy. It's really not even close, in my opinion. Especially Bamford at 8. Bamford is one player that is missing out from my team, and that is because he's got 2 bad fixtures in the first 4. But you best believe when Game Week 5 comes around, Bamford is going to be in my team very shortly after. If not Game Week 4, I may even bring him in when he plays Liverpool. I think Bamford is incredible value this season. If he had better fixtures, he'd be in my team. It sucks that I don't start with any Leeds players. I think they're great value. I just felt like this team I can build makes a little more sense. But Ings to Bamford is almost guaranteed to happen in Game Week. So I'll probably just struggle through Ings' Game Week 4. I may just have to play him against Chelsea. But if depending on how things are going, I'll bring Bamford in game week 4 when Bamford plays Liverpool. And then from then on, I mean, Bamford's going to be amazing value. I think he's going to do what he did last season, get 17 goals, 11 assists, something like that. 8 million, that's amazing. He almost had a goal every, I don't know, 119 minutes or so, something like that. A goal or an assist every 120 minutes. I think he's going to be incredible value. I really do. So with that said, I think that just sort of rules out. It just kind of rules out the possibility of getting Vardy. It's just a little bit too much. I don't think it's a good way to spend the money. Hey, Kazar Abbas, how's it going? Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm doing well. Good to see you back in chat. I can be a mod since okay, yeah, I can sort that out after the stream. How do you trust Spurs defense so much? I don't, but I think they have great fixtures, and Reguilon is very attacking threat. Great attacking threat. It really just fits my rotation well because I can put someone in 2 through 4, game weeks 2 through 4, and not worry about them at all. They're still a decent team. Let's look at how many goals they conceded last season. So let's look at the EPL standings from last season and compare them to other teams. This is like, it's just sometimes it's good because like a lot of us, we look at a lot of stats about shots and expected goals. Sometimes it's good to go back to their table and be like, how many goals did they score? How many goals did they concede last season? So Tottenham last season, they scored 68, the same amount as Leicester, 10 more than Chelsea, the same amount as Liverpool. By the way, Leeds and Mr. Bamford scored more goals than Chelsea, more goals than Arsenal, 6 less goals than Leicester and Tottenham, 6 less goals than Liverpool. So Mr. Bamford sitting there at only 8 million, basically a premium. But that's an opinion for another day, and I'm very upset that he doesn't quite fit into my team because of how good Ings' fixtures are. But of course, I'm going to go with Ings in this case. So just pointing that out. And Aston Villa actually had 60. Wait, no, that's wrong. Never mind. But goals conceded. So Tottenham conceded more goals than Arsenal. Jeez, that's terrible. Funny thing with Arsenal is they actually defended pretty well. They just struggled to keep clean sheets. Very annoying from a fantasy Premier League perspective. So Tottenham conceded 45 goals. That's 1 more than Man United. That's pretty good. They're nowhere near Chelsea. They defended a little bit better overall than Leicester. I think they did struggle to keep some clean sheets overall last season. But Reguilon had 6 assists, and he also had 8 clean sheets. So that's 14 total returns in 2,200 minutes. So let's assume he played 90 minutes each match. 2,244 divided by 90. So he played 20. Let's say he played 25 games. Let's make it sound a little worse. 25 games, 14 returns. That sounds awesome to me at only 5 million. With good fixtures, game weeks 2 through 4. So that's why I have Reguilon. I'm actually very excited about this pick. Shout out to G. Dillon who threw him in the team, and that was the first I'd seen someone select him this season, and since then he's sort of been in the back of my mind. I'm like, and then all of a sudden it hit me. They have good fixtures 2 through 4. I can find a way to bench him game week 1, and I feel like I'm getting a steal here. Who knows? Maybe it won't work out that well, but sort of out of nowhere over this past week, I ended up with 2 Spurs players in my team. Especially with Kane out, I did not expect that to be the case. So, very interesting how the tinkering works. Looks like I convinced Lee Fisher. I always love when people say I convinced him. It's great to know I'm doing something. Now it's gonna come back and bite me when it hurts your team overall. But at least I could, I don't know, at least I could provide some service, whether it's good or bad. I get you thinking, so that's always great to hear. Thanks for the feedback. I have Harrison instead of Rafinha because I needed to save 0.5. I was in that same dilemma, and I completely understand. Because especially like my rationale for doing that when I had what's his name, Harrison, over Rafinha is like, look, they don't have the best fixtures to start anyway, and I'm okay with spending less on Leeds at the moment. Obviously now I've got 0 Leeds players, but That's a tough one. Harrison did very well last season, but Rafinha's underlying numbers are just so much better. And he's on corners and everything like that. And I think he just comes inside more and has more shooting opportunities. Harrison's also harder to predict, in my opinion. You never know when he's going to do anything. Perhaps that makes him a better option for game week 1 in a tough fixture like that. But at this point, we're just speculating. But no, I think 6 million Harrison's probably the most reliable option. For 6 million mids, that is. And then 6.5 is Rafinha, really, for me. So, and I don't think you can go too wrong with either one, but they're both great value, really. And I'm sure at some point, game week 5 comes around, I'll be very interested in the Rafinha and Bamford double up. Probably not the triple up. Harveen says he's going to bring in Gundogan. Hey man, good luck with the Gundogan pick. I hope it works. Nothing worse than convincing people and then it all goes wrong. But that's what we do around here. How's it going, Rajat? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good, I would say. Excited for the season to start. What we got? Less than an hour now. 45 minutes until the season starts. Spurs and Arsenal are massive frauds. I mean, when you look at their lineup, when you're going to look at the Arsenal lineup today, you're going to be like, this is a big team. I mean, are they a big team? Let's go back to the standings real quick. Apparently not. But, people consider them a big team. They have a lot of fans and all that. They're going to see the lineup today. Just look at the Arsenal lineup today and just, think back to, 20 years ago and just think about that for a second. I'd probably say 17 years ago would probably be a better number to say. But even 10, I don't know. I guess Arsenal even 10 years ago weren't great, so not a great comparison. Good question from Sinless. How much do you think is the maximum amount to keep in the bank? So there was a guy last season that I was just talking to named Mr. Capital FPL, also known as Davey FPL, who probably started with 3 million in the bank. Now, I think that's ridiculous. I think in a way it actually worked out for him, but that's another story. I think you want to try to get all the money in the starting lineup as you can. In general, FPL players are priced pretty fairly. So the more money you spend, the more points you're going to get. This is just at the most basic level. Don't overthink that is my general strategy. Now, for example, with my team, I'll go back to my team view, and because you can sort of cheat this, especially game week 1, right? So let's take that general rule, right? The most money in the starting 11 as possible is going to give you the most points. Players are generally priced pretty fairly, right? That's fair enough. But the way you can cheat this, for example, I have a 5 million defender on the bench, and Tsimikas, let's just pretend he's not 4 million. That's ridiculous that he's 4 million. They should have made him more expensive. But regardless, I still have a 5 million defender on the bench. I typically wouldn't do that, but I feel like I can afford to do that because Smith Rowe, the rotation here works well. So I get he's a cheaper player, but I get to play him against Brentford game week 1, which is nice. So even though I'm not spending a lot of money in this spot, I'm able to rotate with the fixtures and get almost like a higher costing player's value worth for this 1 week. That's a weird way to word it, but you get the point. Tsimikas obviously just gives us all more money, especially if you're like me and you're going Trentless. So the team, of course, looks different. But yeah, so as far as maximum amount, I'm going to say, it really does depend on your strategy. And let's say, okay, let me find a good example. I don't know if there is one this season, but there's a possibility where, let's say Aston Villa played Watford game week 1, and you really wanted Ings against Watford, but then after game week 1, all their fixtures were really hard, and it was the complete opposite for another player. So you wanted Antonio, but they played Man City away game week 1. But let's say Antonio is more expensive than Ings, then maybe you leave money in the bank just to make that transfer. But I think leaving money in the bank I would try to avoid it if I could. In general, you can probably find a way to spend that money to improve your team, I would say. But the max amount, I would say, is probably 1 million, if I had to just guess. But I've kept 2 million in the bank before I really kept up with Fantasy Premier League, and I feel like it worked out okay. As long as you feel like you have a bunch of great value players in the team, and you're like, you know what, I really want this information game week 1, and then I'll be able to spend more money. But it's still a dangerous game, though. You're hurting your chances of having a big game week 1 when you have a lot of money like just in the bank. I think. So I'm not a huge fan of it. Is the overall conclusion, but there are cases where it's fine. It all depends on your strategy. I probably will not nuclear Adams, unfortunately. So right after the deadline, it'll probably be a pretty long update time today. So not really going to happen, and I feel like we have a decent idea what the lineups will be. But I'll certainly check everybody's team in my league, see who's doing well once the game week gets going after a while. Interesting to see a lot of the, in my other leagues as well. Get to check out my family's team and other people in FPL, people that I keep up with, like some of the managers that have had really good ranks in the past. I'll check out what they've been up to with their drafts, how their final team looks. Very exciting game week 1 as far as all that stuff goes. Jota or Gundogan. So I have Gundogan, but I already have 3 Liverpool players. Here's the answer is, you know what? This may actually be a case where you could plan a game week 2 transfer if you really wanted to, because Jota, I believe, has hat-trick potential game week 1, potentially starting at striker against Norwich, playing for Liverpool, only 7.5 million. For game week 1, I love Jota. You're taking a slight risk that he starts, though. They could easily just play Firmino, and you're screwed. With that in mind, I don't want to get burned like that. I think Tsimikas and Salah 100% have to be 2 of my, well, I would say yours, but it just sounds too much like a bully to say you got to choose Tsimikas and Salah. But they're the 2 best value options in the game, in my opinion. Salah, obviously, is expensive, but you're getting him for the dependability and the reliable captaincy option. And Tsimikas, well, he's 4 million. Only for 2 weeks. He's really worth much, but still. And then the third one, you could go Trent, Mane, or Jota. I went Mane. Jota is a shorter-term pick. I think he does lose his spot after a bit. He probably does play against Norwich. So if you really want to save a transfer, I would just go Gundogan, because I think you can keep Gundogan for 5 to 6 game weeks pretty easily, see how he's going, and reevaluate maybe from there. Like I said, I love Gundogan. Attacking role, Man City, 2 goals, first friendly, 4 shots, second friendly. Could have scored, could have gotten an assist, all that good stuff. But the thing is that Jota has that big game potential game week 1. So as I was saying, this is a potential chance for you if you want to really target the big fixtures. You could get Jota against Norwich game week 1, immediately switch to Gundogan against Norwich game week 2. Big game potential. So it's something to consider, but I've chose to use my Liverpool spots elsewhere, because Liverpool spots against Norwich are pretty valuable. So I went with Mane instead. But I have no issue with Jota. Just be ready to make that switch. And I think Gundogan would be a good option in that. So interesting that you mentioned both of those together. Target or Mings? I'm a fan of Target, but I'm actually going to say Mings, because I'm worried that they just throw Ashley Young in there and takes Target's spot. I don't think that should happen. I don't think it will, but I think there's less chance that Mings loses his spot than Target. And Target has some attacking threat, but Mings has a little bit as well. I would just be too worried about Ashley Young taking Target's spot. My honest answer is Matty Cash, though, from the Villa defense. So there you go. Thoughts on Vardy captaincy? I don't hate it. I think Wolves is a decent matchup for Leicester. As I mentioned earlier, I think Vardy's bad value, though, so I probably wouldn't have him in my team. But if you're set on him, to be honest, I wouldn't do it because Salah plays Norwich. But I don't think it's a terrible fixture, but just the fact that Salah plays Norwich is a big deal. So that's where I would go. I've been Salah captaincy since the game launched. Salah's never moved from my team. The captaincy armband's never moved. So I guess that's all I really have to say. Arsenal are done. Yeah. Arsenal may finish 10th. You never know. Is it worth bringing in Bertrand from Leicester since they signed Vestergaard to solidify the defense more? I think he's a good option regardless, but obviously I went Reguilon instead. So I'll compare the two, same price point, same position. I think Reguilon is just better attacker than Bertrand. So when he gets in dangerous positions, he's more likely to score or get an assist, and I think that's important. The The fixtures are comparable, I suppose, depending on how you want to rotate them. But Bertrand's certainly a fine option. I mean, he's just competing with Soufal and Reguilon, who barely beat him out. But, yeah, no, Bertrand's a fine option. Probably a little bit overlooked, I would say. Best 4 defenders. So, it's short term, but for game weeks 1 and 2, Tsimikas is up there. Obviously, I'm going to say Shaw and Soufal. I think Reguilon's up there. Other great defenders, you can go with Cancelo. Not many people going after him, surprisingly, but I think he's a good option for the first couple of ones when he's going to be more nailed on before Kyle Walker really gets back. Who else is a good defensive option? Trent. Of course, Trent's very reliable if you want to spend the money. So I would say choose any of those guys to start off with. There's also the Villa guys. So Matty Cash, only $5 million. You're getting 3 great fixtures out of him. That could fit well into a team as well. Once Chelsea get better fixtures, they'll certainly be better options than than arguably any of these people, especially if Chilwell's able to nail down a spot. You're going without Trent and Bruno. Why are you taking so much risk? What's risky about it? I'm picking who I think is going to get the most points. Just like always, it's not a risk. If they bang, you'll have to play catch-up. And if they don't bang, then I won't have to play catch-up. That's how it goes when you play an FPL. You pick who you think is going to get the most points. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not going to make decisions based on ownership. And I'm not... Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So being risky or safe, both of these things aren't inherently good or bad. It's almost just a result of how much your opinion has to differ from the team selected by percentage. It's just how much do you want to decrease extremes? So if you pick a highly template team that everybody has, you're decreasing your chances of having really good results and really bad results. So you're just going to put yourself right in the middle, and you're more likely to be that way. Of course, you still have a team combination that overall is pretty different than most people's, especially as the season gets going and things will change, and people will make different decisions. So there's always going to be that enough to differentiate you a little bit or a lot. But if you... So I feel like a lot of people are almost trapped in that bubble in a way because they're scared, instead of simply looking at, who do I think is going to get the most points? Let me make every decision independently, regardless of team selected by percentage, regardless of who other players I have in my team are. For example, some people may say, you already have Salah, so don't get Mane. If I think Mane is going to get more points than Bruno, I'm going to get Mane. Doesn't matter. I think you have to look at things independently, or else you sort of trap yourself in this box of performance where you just sort of write off potential decisions that you could make because you're sort of in these concrete rules. But it's not about taking risks just to take risks. Like, it's really not. It's just about picking who I think is going to get the most points. And Bruno is going to be a great option. Like I said, Bruno, when he has like what I think are the really easy fixtures, he's going to be irresistible, and I'm going to have to get him in at some point. But to start off with, Mane against Norwich, I would put him in the irresistible category as well. I mean, we could pick whoever we want for game week 1, and we can go from there. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers the question. I wouldn't say picking Mane against Norwich is a risk. Like, I think that's some FPL Twitter sort of overthought, I would say, right? Mane against Norwich, sounds good to me. I would say Leeds is a little bit tougher matchup for Bruno than Norwich. I mean, Mane was bad last season, so I get if that's your criticism, but I certainly think that sounds pretty good to me, for example. Of some, people may consider that a risk because of ownership, but like I said, sounds pretty good. Yeah, so you're right. Spurs do have Europa League that could come into play at some point in the season. Luckily, after game week 4, good chance of a sell. In fact, around that time may be a good time for me to wildcard because I'm looking at, I have the Spurs players, fixtures get worse anyway, and then Europa League, I don't know exactly when that kicks in, but it's something to consider. And then, wait, Spurs do have Europa League? I thought they didn't. On here it says they don't, so I'm confused. But regardless, their fixtures do get bad around that time. Game week 5 they played Chelsea and Arsenal, and then 6. So with that said, I'm losing my voice. Wow. But also Bamford and Leeds guys. I would want to bring the Leeds guys in at a similar time. So maybe that would be a good time for me to wild card, and I could maybe make a early move on some Chelsea players. Wouldn't really be the best time. Maybe you have to wait a little bit longer. I mean, bringing them in versus Tottenham and then Man City, I could maybe bring in Lukaku at that point. I had to wait to bring in the defenders, though. Actually, maybe the other way around. I don't know. I could bring in the defenders and find a way to bench them if I wildcarded them, right? I could work out a rotation that worked. Bench them against Man City. Game week 5 wildcard doesn't sound too bad right now, based on some of the players I have. How does that work with Gundogan? Could maybe sell him as well. Chelsea and Liverpool coming up soon. Game week 5 wildcard noted as a possibility. Be interesting to see whether I have Mane then or not. I would probably bet no. I would probably bet no on that. 30 minutes until the deadline, guys. So make sure the team is locked in. I wouldn't wait for the last second. Just be safe. Make sure that there's not going to be any site crashes or anything like that with things being overloaded. So get your team in now and make sure you go ahead and you're set and ready. And I would say at this point you probably just want to be leaving your team. We've had a lot of time to think about it by now. If you make a last second change, it's probably more indicative of you feeling some sort of pressure rather than what you think is actually best for your team. But I don't know your situation. I've certainly made a lot of last second changes in other deadline streams, but for game week 1, it's I don't know, it's something just feels wrong about it. It feels wrong doing all this preparation and changing it at the last second rather than just a week's worth of preparation. Thoughts on Ferran Torres playing at false 9? He's certainly a good option, but I'm just too worried about rotation to pay. 0.5 more, you can get Gundogan, and I'm perfectly happy with someone that's more nailed on. So I don't mind Torres, I really don't, but I just think there's too much rotation risk there. They don't have to play Torres there necessarily. So first game week, Mohamed, I could easily save a transfer. The team certainly works for that. Or I could do Mane to Bruno. I feel like those are my options. Obviously, there's injuries or other things. Plenty of things could happen to change that. But Mane to Bruno or saving the transfer will probably be the way I go. If Mane does well, though, I would just keep him for Burnley. And yeah, I would save that transfer then. And then maybe find a way to only use one of those transfers. And then after that, I would be looking to sell Ings and get Bamford pretty soon after that. That's pretty high up there on my priority list in case you haven't noticed. After game week 3, once Ings' fixtures get bad, I just want to go to Bamford. Who knows? Maybe Ings is so on fire that I just keep him for the bad fixtures, though. And I could also do Gundogan down to a 4.5 and then upgrade a striker to Bamford. I would need 0.5 more from elsewhere, but I don't think that'd be too hard to deal with. Could always downgrade Antonio to Tony or something. Don't know. Haven't truly considered it, but I'll find a way to get in Bamford. I'm not too concerned with the specifics of it. Something will pop up. Some value player will pop up that I'm able to switch to, and then that will give me money. That's my plan. That's my plan, and I'm sticking to my plan. It's going to work out. It's all going to be okay. I'm going to be able to get in Bamford effortlessly. Wilson or Tony? That's a good question. Actually, I expect them to have similar seasons with regards to how they're going to be talismanic on teams that aren't great. I think to start with, I would go Wilson, though. I just trust Wilson too much. We know he's quality. We know he does well in the EPL. I think they have a decent chance against West Ham. I think Newcastle could surprise some people. So K-Dot says everyone will have Saka and Smith Rowe in their teams by the end of the year. Arsenal are the 4th best team in the league since Smith Rowe came into the starting 11. That may be true, but I still think I don't think they're going to be the 4th best. I don't think they're going to be able to keep that up, simply because I think Man City, Man United, Liverpool, and Chelsea are all pretty well clear of Arsenal, and just in terms of overall quality, right? And then you also have the potential of literally any of these teams happen to be playing better than Arsenal. But I love the Ben White signing. I think their defense was very good at the end of last season. Their expected goals against for the final half of the season was very competitive with a lot of other teams up at the top of the table. So as long as they can keep that defense down, I'm worried about their defensive mids a little bit, but that's another question. But yeah, they certainly do have some great value options if they are attacking well. Saka at 6.5, even Pepe, Smith Rowe obviously going to start at 5.5. So, I mean, if you're right and they're playing very well, you're right. They will be in a lot of teams. Rafinha and Tony, who should I play in game week 1? Oh, man, that's a tough one. Ooh. I don't even want to say get someone else because both of these players are pretty decent value. If I had to choose, it's tough because I view Rafinha as a slightly better option, but I would go Tony. I think the fixture is just a little bit better. That's too close to call. I don't have a strong opinion on that. I'm no Tony expert, so forgive me, but I would have to go Tony if I had to choose. I just thought that now with Greenwood potentially playing at the right or getting benched, Cavani didn't even arrive at training. It seems foolish because I'm fighting a losing battle. I need a 4.0 million defender other than Amarty and Tsimikas. Ooh, buddy. I think you're going to be kind of screwed. The one that most people are going for, though, is the Norwich guy. I'll pull him up now. Most people believe of the 4 millions, he has the best chance to start. And, well, it appears since last time I've checked, he now has an illness. But that man is Omobamidele. I don't know if I said that right, but that's his name that a lot of people have. Chat, feel free to help anybody out or help this guy out with 4 million defenders because all I know is we got Tsimikas and Amarty. Well, Amarty probably won't play besides game week 1, to be honest with you. So be very careful of this. A lot of people have Johnson as well. I don't expect Ben Johnson to start. Sufal is going to be the right back. Ben Johnson's not going to get a place. This guy, Hover for Wolves, could play. Very small chance. Very, very small chance. But yeah, as far as I've seen, Omobamidele has the best chance of playing. There's really no good options that are going to play. So don't expect someone to play at 4 million besides Tsimikas and then Amarty. And those guys are like for 1 or 2 weeks. Tsimikas for like 2 or 3. Amarty for 1, I would say. That's about as most as you could expect. So in other words, I would probably try to find a way to change the structure of your team so you can throw a 4.5 in there just to have a little more depth. I know that it's not always easy, but I'm sure it can be done without hurting the team too much. Any plans to bring in Trent? Not really. I'm sure at some point I'll find the way, maybe around that game week 5 time where I'm thinking about wildcarding now. If I don't wildcard, I could find a way to get 3.5 million and do Tsimikas to Trent. I'm sure there'd be a way by then. A breakout option could emerge. I could sell Son or Mane/Bruno, whoever I have then. But no huge plan, to be honest with you. If I have to go without him, I have to go without him. I'm not too hooked on the idea of getting him back. Is Buendia an okay shout instead of Benrahma? I think so. I think the Villa guys, it's a risk because we're not entirely sure who's going to start. But they have amazing fixtures, so I completely get taking somewhat of a chance on them. Like, really. Absolutely fantastic fixtures, the first 3. That goes for Buendia, El Ghazi. Basically, Buendia, El Ghazi, and who else is there? The other Villa guy, Bailey, if you want to take a chance on him as well. I would probably go Buendia of the couple if I had to. Arsenal defense could concede a lot more than last year as Arteta wants to implement higher line and press with Ben White signing. Also, Spurs are in Conference League, not Europe. All right, cool. So that's true. I don't know. I mean, Arsenal, they had a good goal against record. It would almost be okay if they conceded more goals as long as they could keep more clean sheets from a fantasy Premier League perspective. So maybe they'll get more lucky. I don't want to say it lucky because maybe that's a part of how they play. They just mentally can't focus enough for a whole game to keep a clean sheet. But assuming that's not the case, maybe they'll get a little more lucky and keep some clean sheets this season. But I think Ben White should help them, and maybe them pressing a little more will actually be a good thing. I'm a fan of the White signing, though. I really am. Didn't get enough sleep, man. Obviously, I was tinkering too much. Been changing my fixtures around too much. I'm changing my players around too much, I meant to say. Norwich is a tricky fixture. The fans are back in the ground. They just promoted. The atmosphere is going to be electric. I think Liverpool will beat them, but I don't think it's a walk in the park. I mean, you're right. It is away, but I don't know. The quality difference there should be pretty massive. Thoughts on Pepe? Yeah, I like it, yeah, you're right, John. You just have to be ready to get rid of him pretty quickly. Right, Pepe is going to be on penalties game week 1 because we know Aubameyang and Lacazette are not going to play today. So that's locked in for sure. So, hey, that's certainly an upside, right? I think he's a fine punt for game week 1. You want a differential in your team. Would you go for Mbeumo or Sarr? I'm going to say Sarr. I like the game week 1 fixture a little more, and I think that makes a big difference this early in the season when you're dealing with punts. I don't know. Mane and Salah in the same team bowl, but could be effective. Yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's that bold, to be honest. It's just me picking who I think is going to get the most points. Mane versus Bruno is a tough decision, obviously. Very tough, but yeah, I discussed it a little bit earlier, so I won't go too much in detail. But Mane, better numbers, especially the non-penalty numbers. I think they'll call a little bit less penalties this season to start off with. They'll overcorrect and try to not call as many, and they won't, and they'll reduce the amount they call. And I also don't really love Bruno against Leeds, but Bruno against any small team is always a tough one to bet against. But Mane against Norwich, I just slightly favor him, but that could be a move I make very quickly. Mane to Bruno, that is. Very quickly, Bruno could come in. But yeah, back to Gundogan. I love Gundogan because without KDB, his numbers are absolutely fantastic. I want to say his expected goal involvement per 90 minutes is around 0.8 without KDB, and with him it's like 0.45, somewhere around that. So pretty much doubles without KDB involved. So I'm a fan of Gundogan. Havertz or not, Shane asks. I'm going to have to say overall, no. I think he's a good option, but the fixtures just aren't there. For game week 1, you may get him, but you're probably going to want to sell him right after that, and it's not really an easy switch to someone at that price point. I mean, there's Gundogan at 7.5. You gain $1 million from, but I'd rather just start with Gundogan and play him against Tottenham or Jota or whoever you like at the 7.5 price range. Probably sounds a little better to me. Or go up 0.5 and get Mahrez. I prefer all those options over Havertz personally. Once he has good fixtures, and I think he's a good option for game week 1. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I just prefer the other options. Well, there's a lot of good options around that price range, so I don't think it's worth it taking the bad fixtures in that case. You have Rafinha, not sure about him. Have 0.5 to spare. I'd keep Rafinha, I think. You could also go to Barnes at $7 million. That's a tough call. But you can't go wrong with Rafinha, so I would be a little more confident in him. Digne, I don't think he's a good option. I mean, he's okay, Brandon. The thing is that there's Luke Shaw at the same price. I like Reguilon at 0.5 less. Most people like Soufal at 0.5 less, right? So, and there's also Cresswell. Like, he's competing with some great players at that 5.5 price range. They have good fixtures, but they have their center mids back. They should be able to defend well, but they have Jordan Pickford in goal, and that's not good. So I just think there are a little bit better options out there. Maybe if Shaw and Soufal didn't exist, I would have Digne in my team. In fact, that may actually be the case. Not sure. Do you miss your GOAT, Sheffield Burke? Well, he's not my GOAT. I mean, he's just really good. It's not his fault. He's just a very good player. He was scoring every game last season, but a lot of people forget about that. But, normalized brilliance to what they say. Just because he didn't do step overs, they hated him because he scored 30 goals every game. A A little bit ridiculous, I would say, but oh well. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, they wouldn't even show the goals he scored on TV. They would never show them like in any of his stats or anything. We never got fantasy points for whenever he would score. They did a good job, like, making sure nobody really realized, but obviously we know better than that. But yeah, Burke was very good last season. Averaged 2 goals a game. So Nuclear Adams has 0.5 in the bank. Keep that in mind. So Barnes over Gundogan. Obviously I disagree, but Barnes is a great option. He does go with Digne. He does go with Salah and Tsimikas and Trent. I have no issues with this team, really. The one issue I would probably point out would be Dyer. I think he's a little bit too much of a rotation risk. I say that, but Nuno will probably stick to a solid lineup that includes Dyer. So maybe not. But I would consider doing Dyer to Reguilon. I think it's worth a shout. Or maybe Harrison to Rafinha. If you have 0.5 in the bank, I actually think either one of them may be worth it. Or Barnes to Gundogan, of course. Other than that, this team is good. You can't go wrong with a lot of these players he has. I'm a fan of Talisman. He has Ings, Antonio, Tony, Bruno, and Salah, all talisman of their team. So if those teams do well, this guy's probably getting some points. Barnes almost fits in that talisman category nowadays as well. Gets very good goals and assists per 90 minutes. I am a fan of that pick as well, but doesn't quite beat out Gundogan for me at a similar price. But yeah, looking good. I mean, it's easy this year to build a good team. I feel like a lot of the prices are just so cheap. It really is easy, especially with Tsimikas in nowadays. I'm sitting here with 3 premiums, and I'm like, this team's really good. Well, I'm glad I convinced you, Nuclear Adams, but we'll see how it goes. Grealish or Greenwood? I'm going to say Grealish, actually. Actually, I really don't know. I'm not a huge fan of either one. The true answer for me is Gundogan, but if I had to choose one of the two, I'm going to say Grealish. I think he plays. I don't know how he plays in the Man City team. I don't know. Those are a tough one because, they're sort of both rotation risks, so not a huge fan of either one, but they have high upside. What do you think about Mount? I like Mount, especially with Lukaku. If they can get a good connection down, I think it's going to be great. The issue is the fixtures. I'm avoiding Chelsea because of the fixtures to start off with. As simple as that. But overall, Mount and Havertz could be great options in the future, along with Chilwell and obviously Lukaku. And other Chelsea defenders, they've got some good fantasy options on that team. I'm just waiting for the fixtures to come around. You have an eye for talent. Yeah, I mean, Harveen, it was obvious. It was obvious. I don't know his eye for talent. You just watch him play once, and you're like, oh, there's Messi. But that's kind of an offense to Burke. He's a little bit better than that. Best 4.5 mid, Brownhill, in my opinion. Plays right mid for Burnley. Should get some crosses in, maybe sneak in some assists throughout the season. I think Brownhill is actually quite clear of all the other 4.5 mids. If I was playing 3-4-3 with a 4.5 mid instead of a 4.5 forward, Brownhill would be in my team. So yeah, Brownhill 100% of the time, in my opinion. But I'm not fully educated on all the 4.5 mids because I've been looking at the 3-5-2 for a while now. I have Bamford, Gundogan, and Son as my outside picks. Hopefully it pays off. Yeah, I mean, Bamford's actually highly owned, but I love all those picks, especially longer term. I really think those players are great value. Like I said, once after that Liverpool game, maybe even before that, Bamford's going to be in my team at some point. At $8 million, Bamford is awesome value. Absolutely awesome. So is Rafinha at only 6.5. So Leeds attackers are coming in for sure. Is Tony a right choice? So Tony, I personally have avoided him because I feel like, you know what? I like the price points at 7.5 a little bit better with Gundogan, Antonio, Ings. I think Ings and Antonio are more reliable on better teams, proven in the EPL, all this kind of stuff. They have to play Arsenal in their first game week, Brentford. And although Arsenal aren't like Chelsea or Man City, for Brentford, that's going to be a really tough one, and Arsenal have a good chance of keeping a clean sheet. So I just feel like it gets off to a bad start if you got to play him. If you can bench him, Tony's certainly fine. If you have to play him, see what you can do to get a good matchup there in game week 1. I would say that would be my recommendation. But he's certainly not bad. He's a talisman of a team that likes to attack. You can never go too wrong with that, because if that team has a good game, he's going to get points. So at that point, it's all down to your evaluation of Brentford. I would say I think that's fair enough. 10 minutes until the deadline, if I can do math correctly. Yep, that is right. And hey, I'm not itching to make any changes. I'm pretty chill on my team. Mane over Bruno is the big thing. That's like gonna be a big deal. I'm gonna get a lot of stick if that goes wrong. If Bruno gets a hat trick, everybody's gonna be like, "I told you so." But I'm gonna be like, "Look, I told you. I like Bruno, but I just think Mane's better for game week 1. So we'll see what happens. I'm confident that Mane has brace potential game week 1. I really am confident about that. So we'll see what happens. His open play stats are so good though. So best top 5 defenders for the first few game weeks. Good question, Brandon. Shaw, Tsimikas, Reguilon, Soufal. Those are the first 4. I'm joking around, but seriously, that's why I have them. Like Reguilon for game weeks 2 through 4 is very good. Soufal at only 5 million, I think is great value. Shaw, just incredible value. Tsimikas, incredible value for the first 2. Even though it's only 2, it's such good value. He still gets the credit. And I would say my number 5 is Matty Cash. Because only 5 million, you're getting 3 great fixtures to start off with. Cresswell deserves an honorable mention, as well as Man City defenders. So plenty of options. And if you're just looking for game weeks 1 and 4, Ben White would be the way to go as well. So plenty of options actually at like the 5 million defender range. I think it's pretty solid. But yeah, those are probably my favorites. Digne is obviously up there as well. I just don't trust them to get clean sheets quite as much as I do other people. But Digne is certainly very close to all these players. And I did have him in some drafts. I just don't trust Everton enough. Maybe that's my own fault. Are you locked in for Mane instead of Bruno? Yes. At this point, I cannot change it. I've talked about Mane versus Bruno too much. Like I said, very short term. Could change it game week 2, but Mane's numbers are so good. His expected goal involvement per 90 minutes, I believe, from open play, better than Salah's last season. More shots in the box than Kane on average last season. Per 90 minutes, that is. Like, Mane's numbers were great. He just couldn't quite finish. He gets some confidence against Norwich. I'll be able to keep him for Burnley. I quite like it. He should be coming in confident because a preseason, like I said, I don't love Bruno against Leeds. I think Leeds gave him a little bit of trouble the time I saw him. The game he did get returns against them, I felt like it was a little lucky. I know people always say that about Bruno, and I love Bruno. He's such a quality player. He's going to be in my team at some point, 100%. But for game week 1, I'm back in Mane. And it's a tough call, but it's not like me. I'm not just doing it to be different. I genuinely think Mane, for game week 1, is more likely to get more points than Bruno. And that's my full assessment. Game week 2, it's pretty close from there on out. I would say game week 2, I prefer Bruno a little bit. But if I have to make the choice between a game week now or a game week in the future, and I can't decide, I'm going to take what's right now. I'll take the points now rather than later if I think it's the same amount, because I can always change if I really want to. Look at it from a psychological view. For Brentford, it's a big game against Arsenal, and they don't have anything to lose since they're just... I mean, you're right. So anybody that has the underdog mentality, I would say they're genuinely favored from a psychological point of view, unless it's like... unless you're just a really good team that is very good at like keeping that same level of focus and intensity all the time. I would maybe say Leeds are kind of like that, but then you also have teams like the Invincibles, obviously, like top teams that just managed, like, going all season without losing is just such a feat because you just can't have a bad game. But with that said, like, yeah, if one team has the underdog mentality and they're really fueled by that in a confident sort of way, and the other team isn't, and they're about the same quality, it could be good for Brentford. So, yeah, I don't think Tony's a terrible option. Absolutely not. The question is, how different is their actual quality, right? Can Arsenal simply go out there and just absolutely out quality? Are Brentford going to look like they can't pass? Or Arsenal just going to pass the ball around 80% of the time? I could see that happening as well, but I could also see Brentford giving them a straight-up game and it being 2-1, So, but yeah, Smith Rowe is certainly fine for 5.5, so I'm happy with him. Mahrez and Tony versus Gundogan and Ings. I'm going to say Gundogan and Ings because guess what? That's what I have in my team. I already talked about Gundogan, so the 2 goals in his first preseason game, played very attacking, and then in the second preseason game against Leicester, he had 4 shots. Could have easily scored, took some corners, could have even had some assists, not like huge chances, but Gundogan in an attacking role, minus his typically 2 biggest downsides, in my opinion, are him playing a defensive role, which isn't going to happen because KDB's injured, and him being rotated because he's a Man City player, and that happens to everybody. Well, with KDB's injury, and as well as like Foden's, that's less likely. So I think Gundogan's downsides are sort of not as down right now because of Man City's situation. So that leaves him at a great value, 7.5, attacking option, between a 10 and an 8, I'd say, as far as where he generally plays. But he loves getting into the box and scoring, and he's a quality player, and that's always important. I trust his quality, right? I don't think the quality of his team that he plays for or him is ever the question. It's more about the circumstances around that, and I think they're lined up now to make him a good value option at only 7.5. I think he's better value than any other Man City mid. It doesn't mean he's necessarily going to outscore them, but as far as value goes, I think he's great. I think he's great value at that price. Almost time. That's right, FPL Penguin. Thanks for stopping by. Will Arsenal be Comedy Club again tonight? Very likely, actually. Gundogan or Greenwood, man. Let me sell everybody on Gundogan right now. That's the name of this stream. Selling everybody on Gundogan. I mean, yeah, you got to go with Gundogan over Greenwood. A little more nailed on. Well, actually, a lot more nailed on. The issue with Gundogan is the fixtures. If Man City show up and just can't perform, sort of like they did against Leicester, obviously it's going to be bad for Gundogan. There's also a slight chance that Gundogan's on penalties. I know a lot of people think Mahrez is on penalties. And without even looking at who took the last penalty, because I think it was Mahrez, I will say Mahrez, over his career, is a below-average penalty taker. I'm not saying, he's not as good as Gundogan. I mean, he's literally a below-average penalty taker statistically. So there's no way Mahrez would take a penalty for me, but that's a whole nother story. I think Gundogan should be taking the penalties, or at least somebody besides Mahrez, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Man City and penalties don't really go together that well. You saw the Arsenal versus Spurs preseason match. Yeah, I agree, Nuclear Atoms, and that's one reason, because they already weren't good, that's one reason why Lacazette and Aubameyang being out doesn't really change my opinion on having Smith Rowe, right? Like, I was like, who's going to finish the chances? And I was like, well, who would really finish them anyway? Because they just haven't been in good form for a while now as far as that sharpness that we've seen previously from them. So who knows? Maybe it leads to an increase in Smith Rowe's quantity of shots. So who knows what happens there? It's going to be an interesting game. I've never seen. I don't think I've ever watched Brentford play in my whole life. So today will be the first time for that. And I have an Arsenal attacker in my team, which a lot of my viewers may be surprised by. But at only 5.5 for number 10 for Arsenal, I'm willing to take a shot on it for sure. Greenwood over Gundogan. Nah, I gotta be Team Gundogan all the way here. Good luck, Afeel. Yes, thanks for all your support, my friend. You're gonna get Gundogan in for Barnes with 0.5 in the bank. It's Gundogan appreciation stream tonight. All right, I mean, okay. To be fair, Barnes probably has a better fixture game week 1. Hopefully, in game week 2. Gundogan can really show everybody what's going on, right? If he doesn't game week 1. Last time he played Tottenham, he did score 2 goals, so keep that in mind. But against Norwich, Gundogan, man, almost a captaincy option, especially if he looks good game week 1. I'm a fan. I'm going for him. I'm surprised he's only 8.7% owned. I figured it'd be a little bit more. I think a lot of things that are throwing him off is just these numbers. So up until last season, his highest goal-scoring season was a 6. But I believe in his quality. I really do. I think he's going to sort of pick up where he left off. He won't get you points every game. He's still a 7.5 mid. But without KDB, his numbers have just been too good. I can't ignore the numbers there. Like I said, expected goal involvement per 90 minute without KDB is fantastic. The Game Week 1 deadline has officially passed. This is my team. Sanchez in goal. Luke Shaw, Samika, Sufal, Mane, Salah, Gundogan, Son, Smith Rowe, Ings, Antonio, Gunnarsson, Webster, Reguilon, and Parika. Good luck to my players. Good luck to you guys. Now's a good time to mention that, well, you should like and subscribe and all that, of course. The year I finished 50th overall, I started with Mane and Salah. So let's hope it can replay in that form. Of course, that is never a reason why I would pick them. But I'm just hoping it's going to go that way again. Mane got off to such a great start that season. And I had both of them. They were both cheaper, of course. That was back in 18-19. So I went back to the well, and I'm going for it again with Mane and Salah. Very exciting stuff. Shout out to all the Mane over Bruno owners. It's going to be a rough one if Bruno does better, man. Everybody's going to be like, why would you do that? But I think the reasons were there regardless. Yeah, I feel like it was easy to build a Game Week 1 team this year. It's interesting to see what I ended up on. You know, early on I had Tony, and then for a while it was Antonio, Wilson, and Watkins. And then Ings came along, and I'm like, you know what? I got to have Ings. I eventually decided on Son. I switched to Mane at some point. I was like, I just can't ignore him against Norwich. Simikas came along, changed everything. I think that's actually when I got Son after the Simikas broke out. And then as of yesterday, I was like, let me get in Smith Rowe and Reguilon, combined with Webster or any Brighton defender, because I think I can rotate them guys well. The 4-person rotation of Samika, Smith Rowe, Webster, and Reguilon, playing 2 of those each week, I think works well. I haven't seen anybody else doing that particular rotation, but I'm hoping for the best, man. And Reguilon's high upside, so I feel like I do have some high upside players here. We'll see what happens, man. I'm excited for the FPL season to start. Thank you guys for joining me today. Hope you were able to at least think about something differently because of some of my influence. And, well, hopefully if I did influence you, the decision I influenced turns out to be the right one. Oh my gosh. Blues switch steel to gun. That's a big deal. That's probably going to make a big change in a lot of people's lives. So it's good to know. With that said, thank you guys for joining today. I'm going to end the stream there because I've been streaming for a while. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff. Really helps out the channel. It's going to be very interesting to watch Arsenal without Lacazette and Aubameyang, man. Maybe they'll be better, though. You never know with Arsenal. You never know. Yeah, I get to watch one of my players today. Always exciting. Always exciting. See you guys very soon. Very soon.